The Xbox Drive is powered by the You, Me, and Capri Patreon. We want to say thank you to some people, starting with our Diamond executive producers, Slimer Snarf, Lee Navarro, and Jonathan Brown. Also, our Platinum producer, Robbie Bobby Miller. And then to our Gold level patrons, like James Johnson, Jean K, Skinny Matt, Ashley Nicholson, Becky Grockmall, Trucker Sloth, Argo, Egg Shen, and Ray Sony Pony Martinez. Thank you everyone for all of your support.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford, and on our journey today, it's the biggest freaking Xbox launch in the freaking history of the freaking Xbox. So jump on into the Xbox Drive.
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
Good luck with that intro, Ryan Turford. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's a nightmare. It's a whiteout, man. This drive is totally optional, by the way. Like, I don't drive to work anymore. I do not have to be out here. I feel like I'm jinxing things a little bit. People are really encouraged to watch the video today because there's so much snow, man. So I'm just trying to be safe. It's going to be a slow drive, but we have lots to talk about, so we got to move through that quickly. But the drive itself will be slow. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I mean, the show itself, we're going to go at blistering speed, but at the same time, the drive itself will be short, if that makes sense.
Will be blizzard slow.
Yeah. Besides, you're not the only one who's got something fancy in the video, because I'm joined by a very special guest in the video. The Xbox Series S is in the video with me. It's just sitting here alongside me, along with my controller. I made it look all fancy, so you can come look at my very, very tiny console while we do the show today. Of course,
that's cool.
Sean, as we do with every show, we should probably clean the garage a little bit because we have some stuff to talk about, including thank yous to new Patreon producers, Marcus O'Neill and Tabitha Carroll, who have become gold member patrons over at patreon.com/YouMeCapri. Again, if you're interested in joining our Patreon, you can head over there and find out all the cool details on all the cool stuff you get early, or if you want to throw a little tip in the tip jar. You know what I mean?
Le tip. Just le tip at patreon.com/YouMeCapri. Ryan, you're a genius.
I mean, I wasn't even going for that, but clearly that's the thing. Well, I'm going to cleanly segue into this next thing, which is, of course, I just finished my Extra Life stream this weekend, which we raised over $500 for which was more than my personal goal. But Phoenix Overdrive, the team that both you and I represent, Sean, we're up to $9,600, which is pretty impressive. We're actually 126th overall, and we still have one major streaming because Badbit still has to do his stream, which is going to be
over
exciting.
at the trophy room. Dude, that's awesome, man. And it's been a tough year for fundraising overall. And I think last year we did about $10,000. So we thought, man, there's no way we're ever going to reach that. So kudos to you and kudos to like Skinny Matt is on the team as well. Even though we buried him with our fundraising, he did an amazing job. Everybody on Phoenix Overdrive. I know our friends at PSVG, I think they did over 6,000 with just like 6 guys over there.
Dang.
So gaming coming together, standing proud and doing the right thing, man. Extra Life is so special. And you did an awesome job with your stream, man. We had so much fun playing all the games together.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had so much fun playing with the community, getting to know people that I had no idea, like some of them in particular, like Joey Splats. Him and I had never talked at all on Twitter or on social media before we did before we did the live stream, but he spent like the whole day playing Call of Duty with me, and we were talking in voice chat and stuff, and it was super cool. But also getting to play with everyone else in the community with Halo and a bunch of different games was super fun. It's a shame that unfortunately my internet kind of died by the end of Sunday.
Tuckered out.
Where basically my upload speed went to like 200 kilobytes per second because I was being seriously throttled by my provider, but it was still a ton of fun. So I do want to say, of course, thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you so much for coming out. But Sean, we promised people a SteelSeries prize pack. What's going on with that? Give us an update.
Stay tuned to twitter.com/Sean Capri and or Ryan Turford. We're going to do the draw this weekend. We knew that some people wanted to get some last minute gifts in, and I think that the time is done. Ryan and I have done our streams, so we will be drawing for the SteelSeries prize pack. Thank you to SteelSeries for the Rival 310 gaming mouse, as well as the Arctis One wireless gaming headset for Xbox One and or Series S and or Series X, Ryan Turford.
for all the things. You can use it with all the things.
All the Xboxes.
Which is pretty impressive. Also, Sean, speaking of playing games together with the community, we kind of have a little thing brewing every Saturday night with Halo. Basically, we have like a really solid group together who want to play Halo every Saturday night. So we wanted to throw it out to anyone who's listening or watching the video who maybe hasn't joined us on the Discord yet or talked to us yet. We actually have a link to our Discord, the Yumi and Capri Discord channel, in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or on the podcast feed. If you would like to join us for Saturday evening Halo, I mean, I think our start time we kind of decided on, I think we decided on like 8 or 9 Eastern or 8 p.m. Central Time, so 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There, I worked it out in my brain.
Yeah, got it.
That was kind of the time we kind of worked out in our heads. So, so definitely check us out over on our Discord if you would like to be part of that. And last thing we wanted to throw in here, of course, is actually something from Recurn, which is one of our followers on Twitter, @Recurn. They say, so I didn't get an X, but I did go hands-on with an S. I have a 1440p monitor setup, so it's totally fine. All I can say is, wow, I love Quick Resume. I love seeing optimized Forza Horizon 4. He's very, very impressed with the Series S. Sean, this actually segues us into another question from Joel, a.k.a. Falcon, @Joel, a.k.a. Falcon. And he says, I would want to hear more about Ryan's experience with the S after streaming it all weekend for Expert Life. So for those that didn't catch my Extra Life stream, I streamed it completely from the console you're seeing in the video here, the Xbox Series S, and I wanted to do that to make it a stark contrast from what Sean did from his live stream, which we saw from the X. Just kind of showed you both sides of the coin and kind of how they operate. And Joel, before I go into my quick thoughts about it, there is going to be a full review coming for the S. I will be working on that. That'll probably go out towards the end of next week, I'm thinking. That's going to be very similar to Sean's Xbox Series X review, essentially, where I'm going to go. I'm testing a whole bunch of games on it. I've already done a lot of testing out of it, thanks to Extra Life, but also thanks to a lot of play this week. And I have a lot of thoughts about this console, both good and bad. So there will be a full review coming of that from myself sometime next week. Probably looking for that after we post next week's episode of the podcast. But yeah, overall, Joel, I'm really impressed with it. I think that if you have a 1080p setup and you haven't upgraded to 4K, this might just be the thing you're looking for. I don't know necessarily if you need to upgrade to the X if you've got a 1080p only setup. There are some caveats to that, which again, is something that I'm going to dive into the full review going over. But ultimately, I think that right out of the box with the games that we have to work with during launch week, so far, so good. Like, I'm pretty impressed with it. Like Call of Duty, for example, like was killing it. I think that it ran incredibly well. Like the ray tracing on Series S for Call of Duty was actually really cool to see in multiplayer. Possible? Yeah. So, I mean, another game that does ray tracing is Watch Dogs, and it looked pretty cool as well. Again, it's not as sharp as the X, but that's another case where those cases are actually very similar because the both games run at 30 frames per second, for example, on both consoles. So it's not like an Assassin's Creed situation where...
Oh, I see. Yeah. Watch Dogs runs... I see what you mean. I thought you were saying Call of Duty runs on 30 frames.
No.
No, Watch Dogs on both.
Watch Dogs, yeah. Whereas Assassin's Creed runs at 60 on the X versus 30 on the S. So that's a trade-off that you're probably going to have to ask yourself if it's worth it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the S is pretty cool. Again, I'm not going to dive too deep into it now because we've got a show to do. But next week, you can look forward to my full impressions of the Xbox Series S because, again, I got lots to say about it. But also, we're going to do a drive-by shout-out real quick, Sean, which, of course, is our weekly tribute to our YouTube comment section. And we're going to read a comment from Eric Cave. He says, another great show. I love hearing you guys have a guest, and Donnie did a good job on the show. Suggestion, let us know at the start when you have an extra long show. I actually like the 44-minute format of the usual show, which is something that you and I actually talked about off air, Sean, and I know you responded to this one in the comments. And this is something that we decided that, honestly, I think the show flows a lot better as a 40-minute show. And that's and when you say 44 minutes, Eric, you basically mean with like the Patron intro and like the intro and the outro and stuff like that, which we really don't really have.
We are down to the minute when we look at this, man. Like we've definitely had conversations about, how long the show is, and it's something that has, I think, been part of the identity of it from the beginning. Want to be mindful of everybody's time and stuff. And I also think that it makes like it forces us to be like purposeful and pointed with our comments about the stuff, even though I think we're rambling maybe a bit at this moment. It forces us to be choosy about the things that we talk about as well. So I'm a big fan as well of the 40-minute runtime. One of the things that kind of came to light, and what I love about the extra mile, as people have been listening to that, is that was kind of started sometime last year, and it allows us a little bit of flexibility where there's a lot of like structure and rigidity to the 40-minute runtime where we can't really go outside of that. But the extra mile is like for anything. It's like for game reviews or deep dive on topics, or Bad Bit and I did the console war stuff earlier this year. So I think for the future, we'll probably have like guest spots reserved for the extra mile where we want to dive into, like, for example, we could have dived into, day one with the Series X and S with Donnie. That probably should have been an extra mile type of thing. So this was really good feedback for us to get, I think, because it is in line with what we want to do, I think, with the show. And I think it's what people want from what they expect from the Thursday dropping is a 40-minute deep dive into Xbox, and then they're back out and doing what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, but whenever we bring a guest on too, we don't like to waste that opportunity. We want to give that
right.
guest some room to breathe, and
totally
doing that within the 40-minute time frame doesn't work.
It's tricky. Well. There's been a couple times we've actually brought guests on for the main show, and it's like, you're right. Like, it just, nobody's used to this. Like, it actually, I think it's tricky to get used to. Okay, you've got like you need to make your point, and then we're moving on. It's like, that's really for Ryan and I think, to handle that flow. And then, yeah, I think we can look at the extra mile for guest opportunities.
For sure. So yeah, so thank you so much for that feedback, Eric. That is definitely something we talked about after that, and yeah, for sure, I think you'll probably see us kind of stick to that 40-minute timeline going forward. But Sean, we're like 11 minutes in the show. We haven't even gotten to the games we're playing, so we should probably get moving. So
okay,
let's
you go
grab
first.
our 8 tracks, pop them in. It's time for the playlist. So yes, I'll go first. So first of all, you and I both played a lot of the same games this week.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the one game that I played this week that only I played. And that is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories.
Oh, hi there. Can I please get a medium decaf with 2 Splenda?
For sure. Anything else?
That'll be all. And also, I have a card for that, coffee card for that.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's a free coffee day today, guys. What's up? Okay, what
God.
are we playing? Are we playing
So
Call
we're
of Duty?
playing Kingdom Hearts Melody
Kingdom
of
Hearts.
Memories.
We did not play that together.
So I played that by myself. It was really fun. I had talked about it a few weeks on the show because the demo came out for the game.
Right.
Of course, for those that haven't been following, it's the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game that's basically in the style of the Final Fantasy Theatrhythm series, which was a 3DS game series, which was basically Final Fantasy music games, essentially. And you basically tap along to the beat, depending on the song you're playing. And I got to tell you, Sean, this game is really, really fun. I'm actually really liking it. I mean, I've talked about it before. I'm not someone who's a fan of Kingdom Hearts at all. But the one thing that I've always said that's been good about Kingdom Hearts is the music in those games. Yeah. And Kingdom Hearts Melodies of Memories has all of the songs from all the Kingdom Hearts games, and you play them in a bunch of different ways. There, for example, some of the boss fight themes, you actually play like boss fights with the characters. So you'll see like a boss battle between like Goofy, Sora, and Donald playing out in the background where they're fighting the boss, but you're like pressing the notes in time with the song.
Yeah.
There's also like full motion video segments where there will basically be like a full motion story playing below all of the music notes, and then you're kind of tapping along with the music that's going on. Like the music from like the intro cinematics are there, as well as some of the more cinematic moments from Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
But ultimately, there's all the battle themes are there, the town things are there. This is a really awesome game if you love music, if you love rhythm games, if you like Kingdom Hearts.
How much is it? A full game?
It's a full price game, but you get but it's because of the music licensing that it's a full price game, because there's like 100 songs in this game, and they had to be licensed from Disney and Square. It's a whole thing. So
sure.
I mean, if you want, like, for example, to go buy the Kingdom Hearts 3 concert on Xbox Live, Sean, that's $50 on its own.
I guess when you put it that way, I can't afford not to buy this, Ryan.
I guess, but I'm just saying, it's just like, it's a really fun experience if you like rhythm games.
Thank you.
If you like Kingdom Hearts. And one of the things I actually like about it too is there's a full story mode in the game as well that kind of retells a lot of the Kingdom Hearts story across all of the games, and then it kind of like has a section at the end that kind of hints at where the story is going next for the next Kingdom Hearts game. But it does what the impossible, Sean, which is try to make sense of the Kingdom Hearts storyline.
That might be the most intriguing part about this. Actually, you know what? The music for Kingdom Hearts is excellent. I will absolutely give it that. The story is incomprehensible, and it's just a kind of a mishmash of stuff. But I'm glad you like it. But yeah, like the music is actually excellent. Like that, I would love like even more iterations of that main theme song. I love the Kingdom Hearts theme song. I think it's really special. I'm not even a Kingdom Hearts fan, but I just like, I hear it. It's like, I don't know. It's a nice melody, man.
Yeah, for sure. So again, check it out if you like Kingdom Hearts music or like rhythm games. But we should move on because the game that I played the most this weekend was Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War multiplayer.
Dude, because how many hours?
So I literally played it for 12 hours straight, and then we played Halo, and then I slept, and then I came back and played more of it.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I played it for about 15 hours this weekend.
My God.
Yeah. But you know what? I had so much fun playing it though with Joey, Joel, Tony, and everyone else who came and played with us. I mean, you were there for a little bit, Sean, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I will say though, the one thing I didn't like about the multiplayer for this game is the map selection, because there's only 8 maps in the entire game, I found out.
Right.
And this is something I had suspected.
Do that for 15 hours.
Yeah, I suspected there were very few maps, but then I looked it up after we were done the stream, and I'm like, yep, this would explain why we got the same 8 maps over and over again, is because there are 8 maps in the entire game. So
yeah,
definitely map variety, if you're going to play long play sessions, is not ideal, but in a way, it probably works out better for people who want to get really good at the game, because it's probably a lot easier to memorize the maps if there are only 8
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I don't get 15 hours to play in a game, so I I don't really want to have like 15 maps to try and memorize. Like there was a point in time where I saw Garrison for the first time, not Mr. Garrison, but the map Garrison, and I was terrible at it, man. I was like, I didn't know where anything was. Everybody's got their hiding spots all figured out and their blind spots all sorted, and I was terrible. And people are getting really good at this game really quickly. But before I go on about Call of Duty, shout out to freaking Tony Baker, who, while I've been mulling over if I'm gonna buy this thing, I'm kind of thinking, is this gonna go on sale for Black Friday? Just like freaking Watch Dogs Legion is like half price right now at Best Buy, which is nuts. Game's out for like 3 weeks and it's 50% off. So I was thinking about that, and then Tony Baker hits me up in DMs and goes, check your email. And sure enough, guy buys me a Christmas present. So I'm playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Thanks to Tony Baker, and I am so grateful, man. The guy is just amazing. Everybody should check him out on Twitter, Tony Baker 87 on Twitter, and the guys do an amazing job with the Quest for Pixels podcast. Him and Joel, aka Falcon, really good friends in real life, and obviously supporters of the show. And I just couldn't talk about Call of Duty without acknowledging his amazing kindness that he showed this weekend, man.
For sure. Well, if anything, if it wasn't for Tony Baker, you wouldn't be able to talk about Call of Duty at all, other than
seriously, I would have been waiting, man. Like, because I'm good with Modern Warfare. Like, that's the thing. Like, Modern Warfare is such a great game, and I've been playing it pretty much the entire year. There was never really any full stretches where I wasn't playing Call of Duty, and I was good. And then he reaches out and like, yeah, join us. And I feel like between Call of Duty and Halo and a couple others that we've got going on, like we've got a good crew playing these multiplayer games. And that's what, to me, is like what Xbox is all about, man. Is like jumping on Xbox Live, getting in a party, and just shooting some noobs. Which apparently is me in some of these cases. But
or me.
Call of Duty is great, man. Well, Call of Duty is excellent. I hope to have, are you going to do like any campaign at all?
So I haven't played the campaign yet. It's my thing I want to do after I finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Sean.
Oh, yeah, that game too. Yeah.
Because I want to eventually finish that game, and I know
Same
if I
here,
play
man.
another campaign, I will never finish it. So, and that's the other reason why I didn't sink more time into Kingdom Hearts this week. Like, I played it a lot, but I didn't sink a ton of time into it because, again, I mean, we may as well just segue into it now since I'm already talking about it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is basically, once again, eating up my time. This morning I got past the 65-hour mark in this game, and guess what, Sean? I'm 60% done this game.
Oh my God, man!
It never ends.
That's
it never
great.
ends. It is the beta. It's the beta
But
by
is that
existence.
good, though?
But
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Honestly, I'm 65 hours into it because it's such a good game. Because I've wanted to stick with it. I haven't felt like I've had to. Again, our review is already out there. I mean,
Right.
I could wrap it up if I wanted to because I kind of already know how I feel about this game, anyways. But I mean, I'm loving my time with Valhalla. I mean, I can't put this game down, and I love it. I mean, it's a game that definitely starts off slow, but man, once it gets going, it really gets going when it gets going.
You're right about that, Ryan. Like, I feel like last week, I think you and Donnie had put a few more hours into it than I was able to. But since then, and I think I was down because of that, because I was still very, very early in the game. And I'm like, what is this opening? I'm not really sure. And also the winter wonderland at the start. It was too close to home, man. I need to escape, even if it is to England. But as soon as you pull up on that shore, and there's a couple dudes who kind of give you a bit of a rough time. They're like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing over here?" I'm like, "Well, number one, this is why we now have customs. You can't just have people jumping into your onto your shores and killing fools with their swords and shields and everything." But once that happens, man, things really do ramp up, and they do feel a little bit more familiar to Odyssey to me. I agree with pretty much everything that you said last week about the skill tree. I would actually like to see a little bit more. But you and I were chatting online as we were kind of playing some Halo or Call of Duty or whatever it was, that the skill tree is so enormous that I think that they were addressing some of the concerns that overall people have with Assassin's Creed, is that you can open it up and you're just obliterated by all of these icons and things. Mostly people are talking about the map when they say that, but they would have that reaction with the skill tree as well. So I'm not sure what else they could have done to the skill tree, because it would have been too overwhelming to see it all at once, but maybe there's a way that they could balance that. But
Maybe
Ryan,
maybe what I would have loved differently is if they put the big icons for the big abilities that you want to target,
right,
and have them shown from the beginning, but none of the other connectors. So
like the plus 2% melee or whatever, like those types of things. But there are
like if you wanted to go with like the heavy dual wield, where you can dual wield two-handed axes. You obviously want to know where on the skill tree you need to target to get that.
Good point. That's exactly what I want to do, because that's how I'm playing. I don't want to shield. That's how I played most of Odyssey. I've got my two-handed axe, and I'm upgrading the crap out of it right now. And this is the game I think, Ryan, I'm going to be playing for probably a couple months, to be honest. Very similar to Odyssey.
Yeah. I could definitely tell. I think that's
going
to be a game that's going to really invest a lot of time into, and I think you're going to be rewarded for it, because honestly, it's a great game. The story too gets like so intriguing towards the end too, where I am right now. Like I'm going to be really eager to hear what you have to say about that. Also, I love some of the higher end bosses that you fight as well, like the Daughters of Lyran, I think they're called, which are basically like these Dark Souls-esque fights that you have to fight with these like incredibly tough enemies. They're so awesome, but the rewards that you get for that are amazing, and I don't want to spoil it here.
Well, it's kind of like Odyssey, right? Like they had
amazing.
those, what were they, the mystical beasts or whatever? They had some of those big battles
like
that you had.
The Cyclops or Medusa and stuff.
That was so cool, man. Greece, like ancient Greece, was such a great setting. This is pretty good. I don't think quite the setting is quite as great as Greece or even Egypt in that way. I think Egypt had its own kind of like mystique to it as well. This one is a little bit more raw, I think, is really my takeaway from the Viking world, which I think is fitting, but a little bit more mystique. Maybe there's something that's coming. Maybe there's because they keep talking about Thor and all the gods and everything. So maybe there's something else to come into it. I like that it adds a little bit of, not necessarily the spirituality of it, but just some like supernatural almost nature to it. So who knows?
There's always like with the Assassin's Creed games, there's always been like a tinge of supernaturalness,
right?
And with Odyssey and Origins, they did that really well. And you definitely see some of that come into play later in some of the areas. But again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone else who hasn't played it yet. So that's kind of where I'll leave it at. Also, I noticed that we both put Halo multiplayer, because obviously we played it with the community on Saturday, Sean. But did you play the X enhanced version of the Master Chief Collection yet? Because it just came out, I think, yesterday.
I did. I was working very late last night. I had a couple things I needed to do. It was about 2:30 in the morning when I was like, I could either go to bed or fire up Halo 4. Check this out. So I played Halo 4 for about an hour earlier this morning. So people are looking at me like, what's wrong with his eyes? I'm a little tired, but it was because I wanted to get in some time with Halo 4. And dude, the Series X optimizations for Halo are so great. The load times are freaking instant. It looks awesome. The only thing I will say, though, is going to be pretty consistent with a lot of times where games are running at 120 frames per second. I'm like, I don't know. I think I just have to admit this for the most part. Like, I can't really tell you by looking at it 1,000% that's 120 frames. I think I'm playing at 120 frames. I had a great time with what I was playing, and that's all I can really confidently tell you, Ryan Turford.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, I've heard that the jump from 60 to 120 isn't nearly as noticeable as the jump from 30 to 60.
It's very smooth. Like, I can tell you definitely that it is very smooth. I just wish there was something in the options similar to Gears has it actually in there, is to say like to set it at 120 frames. What I'm doing here is I have to go and make sure that in the system settings, like in the Xbox settings, that I've got it for 120 frames per second. And then I'm basically just assuming that Halo is doing the rest of the work. I would just like to see a little bit more of that. And this is a PC gamer in me. I want to see more of that control. Like, I want to flip the toggle that says, this is the game mode that I'm on, so I can be really sure that that's as close to sure, I guess, without having a frames per second display in the corner. But man, like, Halo is back in a big bad way. It seems like the Master Chief Collection has been in the works for a long, long time. And I know we'll get to it in the news, but you know, it's got crossplay now, and Halo 4 is now on PC. Like, it seems complete, and the fact that it's optimized for Series S and X just is the cherry on top. So people who have been downloading it before, they've been maybe pushing it off. I feel like we've now got the definitive edition of the Master Chief Collection finally.
For sure. Well, last thing before we get into news, Sean, real quick, you mentioned Gears 5. Any updates on Gears 5 Horde mode?
Just a shout out to Horde. Yeah, just a quick shout out to Horde mode. I played 30 rounds of Horde with a good friend who lives here in the city, and Horde mode is excellent, man. So these are all the games that we're kind of playing. These are big multiplayer games. Most of these are, at least Halo and Gears are on Game Pass. So if people want to play games, man, this is where we're at. And Horde mode is just as special now as it was before. I don't know if you added anything to the notes, but Gears 5 got a new operation and new like WWE characters that I only briefly saw. But cool stuff still coming to Gears, and it looks amazing on Series X.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, let's slam the brakes on this conversation. It's time for some breaking news. And we're going to start with this week marks the biggest launch in Xbox history. According to Microsoft, more consoles have been sold than any prior generation of Xbox, with the Series S actually being the higher percentage of the two for new players as well as for any console launch. And also an insane 70% of Xbox Series S and Series X consoles have been attached to new and existing Xbox Game Pass memberships. That's a pretty high attach rate for the new consoles.
That's what they want.
Also, I don't know if you saw this news come out of Japan, but Famitsu actually released numbers for both PS5 and Series X and S in Japan. And they also sold 21,000 Series S's and X's in Japan, which was actually the amount they sent to Japan. So they did.
Oh, interesting. So they just sold out. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, it was hilarious because in order to buy one, you had to enter a lottery to be drawn for the privilege to buy a console.
Oh, that's good news. I was going to say 21,000 sounds like nothing. That sounds like, for a whole country, it sounds almost like nothing.
Well, you also have to remember Japan's like a smaller country. Like, it's not like Japan's only a country of like 4 to 5 million people. And
wait,
games.
What?
No, it's more than that. I'm spitballing here.
Sure.
But I'm just saying it's not a huge country. And
Gotcha.
As far as population is concerned, because the PS5, for example, only sold 100,000 copies, which again is more than
still
Xbox.
5 to 1. Yeah.
But you also have to remember too, Xbox literally like over the course of this year maybe sold 500 consoles in Japan.
Seriously. Yeah, that's actually good context, because 21,000 doesn't sound all that impressive, but we saw throughout the Xbox One generation, Xbox Ones being sold as Blu-ray players or as DVD players. Like, it wasn't like, go buy your
they
Xbox.
Couldn't
it's
sell
like,
them there.
buy this Blu-ray player. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that those are encouraging numbers, especially with the console selling out too in Japan. Like, I think Japanese interest is on the rise, which is just awesome to see. But more than anything, it's awesome to see the first week of Xbox Series X and S being a huge success. I'm glad that people are enjoying them as well. And it's super hard to find one right now, unfortunately. And it sounds like from what Xbox said earlier this year, or not earlier this week, that the supply, unfortunately, is going to be very limited until next year, until 2021. But but at the same time, it's super awesome to see that even in the midst of 2020, that Xbox is having its biggest year to date. Because the only other console that I think from Xbox that completely sold out on launch week was Xbox 360, was actually the other console that really sold out very quickly like this.
And that console generation was pretty good for them, Ryan Turford, aside from the Red Ring of Death thing. The one thing I want to jump on, though, you had mentioned that the Series S was the leader for new consoles, for new players. So it seemed like that strategy has really worked out for them to have, like, if this is like the second console for PlayStation players, that at least they're now in the ecosystem. And now with a 70% attach rate across both consoles having Game Pass, it's like, you've seen the plan been drawn up for years and years. You're seeing them execute it now. It's like, it really shouldn't be surprising that this is the result, but it's still remarkable. You know what I mean? It's like, it's perfect. It's exactly what they want. 70% attach rate doing $15 a month on Game Pass is absolutely nuts. So very, very encouraging. You love to see it. Definitely good things coming out of Japan. And we're now into it. We can now just like talk about the games that we're playing instead of fighting about the hypothetical consoles that we don't own. You know what I mean?
I know. Even I have my console, which I didn't have the last time we recorded, whereas now they're actually in my house, which is awesome. Dude.
Yeah, man.
We're finally part of the club now. Well, next up, and this was actually a news story that kind of came about right before we actually recorded today. The Game Awards actually announced their full list of 2020 nominees. So I'm going to quickly go over the Game of the Year nominees, including The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Sean's favorite game of all time, Doom Eternal, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Of course, unfortunately for us Xbox folks, the only one we have to pull for here is Doom Eternal, because it's the only one on our consoles, unfortunately. At least until Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII Remake should hopefully be coming to Xbox next year, by the sounds of it. But, I mean, right now it's just Doom Eternal. But I did want to throw out there, and of course, congrats to the nominees, first of all, for Game of the Year, even though I did want to give them a shout out here, even though they don't represent Xbox, and this is an Xbox show. It's good for us to at least talk about that a little bit. But also, I put some notable Xbox nominees on the list here, including Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which was nominated for Best Action Adventure Game, Best Music, and Best Art Direction. Which
Best Music has got to win. Holy crap.
I would actually say for Art Direction, it's probably a slam dunk. That's a gorgeous game, especially with the Series X improvements. Wasteland 3 is nominated for Best RPG.
Very cool.
Gears Tactics is nominated for Best Tactics/Sim Game, along with Microsoft Flight Simulator. So
dominated. Yeah, there we go.
Well, I mean, it's the sim category or strategy category. There weren't too many. There's also Crusader Kings and some other ones. But we also got Tell Me Why, nominated for Games for Impact, which is essentially games trying to tell a really strong message, as well as Minecraft Dungeons, Best Family Game. That's probably not going to win because it's dominated by Nintendo, and as well as Minecraft Dungeons. But Minecraft Dungeons, speaking of that, it got its crossplay patch this week as well. So you can actually play with everyone across all platforms, which is awesome. But last one, which isn't Microsoft specifically, but it's a fan favorite among both myself and Sean, Hyperdot got nominated for Innovation in Accessibility. Shout out to Charles, who's actually a fan of the show and actually a good friend of yours, Sean. I know.
Yeah, man, as it turns out.
Exactly.
Yeah, he made a great game. And I know when we met him at E3 last year, that was one of the things that he was focusing on. I was playing the game going like, can you just like give this to me now? Because this looks done. And he was saying that he was really putting in a lot of time on accessibility options. So that was, at least over a half a year between when he told me that and when he released the game. So glad to see that those efforts were recognized with the Game Awards, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the full list of nominees, of course, if you haven't seen them yet, I left a link in the show notes for you. If you want to go check that out there, it's on the Game Awards website. But Sean, we got to move because the show is running out of time and we have to get to listener questions. I know we have a lot of other news stories, but I think we're going to kind of skip over a lot of them here.
I think we kind of talked about
obviously,
them.
Quick reminder, Halo Master Chief Collection, the updates are live now, and as well, Halo 4 is on PC and it's $10 on Steam. So definitely get on that. Also, Call of the Sea has a December release date of December 8th. It will be coming to Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC.
And Game Pass, into Game Pass, right?
And Game Pass. I think so, yeah. So, Sean, let's let some of our friends in the car with us. It's time for the carpool.
Come on in.
Let's start with Blaze Knight at BlazeKnight0923. He asks, what game that you have played has had the most noticeable improvements now than its unoptimized version on Xbox Series S and S. So, Sean, I know you put Gears 5, so why Gears 5? Why is Gears 5 the best optimized games?
I think it's got to be Gears 5. I think already started out really looking good on the One X, but this is the one where I've said before I can't look at a game and go like that's definitely 120 frames. I don't know what it is about Gears 5 that I see it. I definitely see the fluidity in the multiplayer and feel the lower latency. This is something else. It's like there's so many bullet points when they talk about what it means to be optimized for Series X, and one of those that they talk about is that they've reduced the controller input latency, and I think that's actually what I'm feeling when I talk about how fluid it is in 120 frames. It's that, but also what they've done with how the game actually inputs into the system, or how your input into the game goes into the system. It feels so much better. It is so smooth. I just think that it's like, it's not like when you have like a racing game that looks good, it's like, well, yeah, but it's a racing game. This is like a really top tier, very detailed. It's very action heavy. There's a lot of things going on here. It's like, this is the example that you want to bring your friends over and say, like, look at this game, and they'll never know that it's a year old. I think that's kind of why I go Gears 5 for sure, right out of the gates.
For sure. Those, you made some good points. The one I'm going to throw out there, and it's a game I've already talked about a lot today, it's Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and here's a reason why I have to pick it. And because I played that game for 45 hours on Xbox One X, Sean. When I played it on Xbox Series X for the first time, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It looks so much better on Series X. It runs so much better with the frame rate is really impressive, but also the HDR looks better. Stuff like the low latency that you were talking about is hugely improved on the Series X version, especially for some of the tougher boss fights. Like, I think that's a game, even though Digital Foundry kind of was tearing it apart a little bit in their comparison with the PS5 version earlier today.
Yeah, what the heck?
I still think that that's the most impressive game I've played on Series X when compared it to the Xbox One version of that game.
I would probably be right with you if I had that comparison. That's the only thing is like Gears, I had that going from like played a ton of hours on the One X, and then I saw it get that bump up, and that's the experience I had. I think I would be right with you on Assassin's Creed had I put in all those hours, 30 frames, and all those different changes that you mentioned. Assassin's Creed does look incredible on the Series X, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, I think, I probably would have felt differently about it if I played it first on Series X and didn't play it on the last console. But because I had so much time in with the Xbox One version, not only that, but I played it on Series S as well. And that also only runs at 30 frames. That it's just like, trust me, Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Series X, that's the game. That's the showcase game for me personally. And Gears, I'm in the same situation with you where I just didn't play a ton of Gears either in its optimized form or, I mean, I haven't really played a ton since the game came out. Just because I haven't really gone to Gears beyond the campaign and a little bit of multiplayer that we played together.
We can play multiplayer, yeah. We should do some Horde. We should get the crew going. We got Gears, we got Halo, we got all the things, man. It's going to be a good time.
But also, you're in a bit of a unique position too, Sean, because you have a 120 frames per second TV. Whereas I don't.
Which, by the way, I've been joking about like that's a rental, and I'll probably be taking it back. I am not taking them back. They went on sale for Black Friday early off. I just went to Costco. I got $500 back for the 2 TVs, dude. We're keeping the TVs. We're officially in next gen on TVs, man.
Dang, son. Also, the other game I want to give a shout out to, which I haven't spent a ton of time with, but this blew me away when I tried it as well, is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Yeah, man.
Because, and it's not so much the 120 frames mode that I know you tried, Sean. It's actually the super sampled 6K mode that I think is really impressive.
Good call.
Like, that game already looked incredible as it was, but in that super sampled 6K mode at 60 frames per second, like, looks incredible,
dude.
In 4K.
The answer is all of them, BlazeKnight. Honestly, like every single game that is enhanced looks. Well, maybe not Crosscode. That might be the only one that's like, really?
No, actually, Crosscode actually, believe it or not, there's actually like the graphics are a lot sharper on.
It does look. I don't mean to disparage.
But it's not. But yeah, it's not like a visual
Gears
powerhouse.
5. It's not. Yeah. There's definitely noticeable improvements on that one. But yeah, anytime you see that logo, like it's meaningful, man. Anytime you see it on your, it shows up on your game tiles, and also the Series S and X will categorize it if you want in your games library. So that seems to just like those are the games I'm playing. Honestly, like anything that falls below that, I'm not even looking at Destiny 2 until it gets optimized.
Yeah, I was looking forward to playing Destiny 2 this weekend, but I'm kind of glad I decided to wait on that because of the optimizations are coming. But though I will say, to your point, even though I know you were disappointed by Crosscode, the game that actually disappointed me for Series X optimizations is Watch Dogs, because I actually think the ray tracing looks nice, but that's it. Like, it doesn't run at a smoother frame rate or anything like that.
I would
like,
prefer that
there's not
too.
much to it besides the ray tracing, which I know is just hit or miss with people. I know Donnie was talking about it on the last week's show. He was not a fan of ray tracing.
People just want options, man. They just don't want to have like this is the only thing. And that's the new era of gaming that we live in, where, you know, for the longest time it was like, there is one way to play this game and it's probably 12 frames per second because you're playing GoldenEye on like 56 kilobytes of memory on the damn 64 or whatever it is. I'm sure I'm going to get oopsed on that. But Ryan,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everything looks good. Everything looks great. Optimized.
For sure. Last question. This is from GayaX at GayaX1. They asked a question in another language.
Read it in French.
I'm not reading it in French. We're gonna read it in English because we've got 2 minutes left.
Via
Sean.
Google Translate. All right.
So Google Translate translated to this. Are game developers / studios really going to embrace the new Xbox Series X or S technology to optimize all of their games? Won't they facilitate development on PS5 and graphically downgrade their games to Xbox because of PlayStation 5? I think what he's trying to ask is more along the lines of, will developers really not take advantage of the next-gen technology because they still have to because even next-gen games need to fit on all 3 of these consoles. And honestly, he's exactly right. I think that developers are going to take advantage of this technology, but it's going to be limited based on the Series S more than anything of the 3 consoles, because third-party developers are really going to develop games that will run on the Series S. Like that's a commitment from that Microsoft has made. However, I will say, as someone who is a Series S owner, I think the scalability for those games are really going to surprise people. So I don't think they're going to be held back as you think. But yes, there will be some level of that because the Series S will be the lowest, like the lowest common denominator, for lack of better words, of those consoles. But what do you think about this, Sean?
Well, the thing is that scalability exists within PC already, and then the range is actually there's greater variance from top end to low end on PC than there is from Series X to S. There's still quite a bit of familiarity and connective tissue between the 2 Xbox consoles. But the thing that I think is interesting is, like, just as you mentioned, like, what is going on with Assassin's Creed is actually running better in some instances on PS5 than it is on Series X. So I actually don't think that there's any hard and fast rule to any of this. I think it is going to be a bit of a case by case basis, and depending on, I don't know, I actually don't really understand like what goes into optimizing these games for Series X versus a PS5. I think it's maybe too early to tell, Ryan, like to really know what the story of the generation is going to be. Developers are still, I think, kind of wrapping their minds around like what velocity architecture really is and what it means and whatever it's called over on PlayStation Land. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it yet, but I'm definitely watching it along with everybody else.
I mean,
I'm sure.
The main thing is they don't have to run on the Xbox One VCR console. That's the main thing. As long as they don't have to, you'll still get. I don't think they'll be less held back by 5,400 RPM hard drives than they were by the Series S, for example.
Yeah.
But
well,
anyways,
remember Red Dead Redemption ran way better on Xbox One X, and I feel like it's a similar situation with the Series X being more powerful than the PS5, as similar to the One X being more powerful than the PS4 Pro. But that didn't stop developers from making a noticeable difference, or at least with Red Dead's instance, it was way better on the One X and the PS4 Pro.
For sure.
But
anyways, we got to go, my friend. So before we go, Sean, plugs go.
I don't want to go. I want to keep talking to you. But if people want to reach out, they can find me on Twitter at Sean Capri. It's Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And if people like the show and they want to support it at patreon.com/YouMeCapri, I would be very appreciative of it, man.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Xbox Drive and on Twitter at The Xbox Drive. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 167 of The Xbox Drive, and we out. Bye.
The biggest week of The Xbox Drive ever. Bye.